Welcome back, my loves. Tonight's story is a dark mafia romance filled with tension, heartbreak, and a forced marriage that changes everything. If you enjoy dangerous men, emotional twists, and stories you can't stop listening to, you're in the right place. Let's begin.
I was staring at Chiara from across the clinic room. I didn't look like someone capable of love. "That child," I said coldly, eyes dropping to her stomach, "belongs to me." She swallowed. "I didn't steal anything." My voice dropped to a whisper sharp enough to cut. "Then you'll marry me, and spend the rest of your life proving it." I'd buried love 6 feet under, sealed it with concrete, and built an empire on top of it. So whatever this was, this tightness in my chest, this flare of something vicious and protective when her hand drifted unconsciously to her abdomen, it wasn't love. It was control reasserting itself. Order returning to chaos. That was what I told myself as Chiara Romano stared at me like I'd just sentenced her to death. The clinic room smelled like antiseptic and fear. Mine, not hers. She was holding herself together with thin threads of dignity, spine straight, chin lifted, eyes too honest for the lies she was supposed to be telling. Too honest for a woman who had to know exactly what she'd done. "You expect me to believe this was an accident," I said, voice calm, measured. "Deadly. My genetic material doesn't end up in your body by chance." Her fingers curled around the strap of her purse like it was the only thing keeping her upright. "I went to the clinic because I wanted a baby. I didn't know who you were. I didn't know anything about you." A lie. It had to be. Because the alternative, that fate had reached into my life with bloody hands and dragged me back into this nightmare, was unacceptable. I stepped closer. She didn't retreat. "Interesting. Your family has been trying to get leverage on me for years," I said. "This is creative. I'll give them that." "My family doesn't even talk to me," she shot back, heat breaking through the fear. "I'm barely a Romano to them." That earned her a flicker of attention. Not sympathy. Never that. But curiosity was dangerous enough. I looked at her properly then. She wasn't what I'd expected. No designer suit. No sharp edges. No predator's smile. She wore a simple dress, hands bare of rings, hair pulled back like she didn't want attention. And she was pregnant with my child. My jaw tightened. Years ago, I'd stood in a hospital hallway listening to a flatline tone that erased my future. The woman carrying my first child had died bleeding on cold tiles because someone wanted me weak. Distracted. I learned my lesson. Love was a liability. Heirs were necessities. That was why I'd done it. Frozen sperm, anonymous, clinical. A future without emotion. A legacy without loss. And now here she was. Chiara Romano. Soft-spoken. Stubborn. Carrying the one thing I'd sworn to protect at all costs. "You're going to listen carefully," I said. "Because your choices ended the moment that heartbeat started." Her breath hitched. Just once. Then she steadied herself again. "I won't give you my baby," she said quietly. Something ugly curled in my gut. "You don't have that power." Silence fell heavy between us. Outside the room, life went on. Phones ringing, nurses laughing, footsteps passing by. While inside, the world narrowed to 2 enemies bound by blood neither had planned. "You're afraid," she said suddenly. The audacity of it almost made me smile. "I don't feel fear." "You do," she insisted, eyes lifting to mine. "You're just better at hiding it." I leaned in until my shadow swallowed her. "You're not here to diagnose me." Her pulse jumped in her throat. I saw it, filed it away. Weakness could be exploited, but it could also be protected. And God help me, I wanted to do both. "This pregnancy ties you to me," I said. "And that makes you a target. My enemies will come for you. Your family will disown you. The world will tear you apart piece by piece just to see me bleed." Her face paled, but she didn't look away. "So what?" she whispered. "You lock me in a tower?" I straightened, adjusted my cufflinks. The Pialo crest glinted under fluorescent lights. "No," I said. "I put my name on you." Her lips parted. "We get married," I continued, tone flat, final. "You move into my house. You live under my protection. And in return, you do exactly as I say." "That's not protection," she said hoarsely. "That's a cage. Cages keep people alive." She laughed then. A broken, breathless sound that scraped something raw inside me. "You don't even know me." "I know enough." I knew she was carrying my heir. I knew her last name could ignite a war. I knew every risk and how to neutralize it. What I didn't know, what unsettled me more than it should, was why the idea of her saying no felt intolerable. I signaled to the men waiting outside. The door opened instantly. "Take her home," I ordered. "My home." Chiara stiffened. "I'm not agreeing to this." I met her gaze, letting the full weight of who I was pressed down on her. The man who ended bloodlines. The man who decided who breathed. "You already have," I said. "You just don't know it yet." As they escorted her out, she turned once more, eyes bright with unshed tears and something dangerously close to defiance. "This won't make you less alone," she said. The door shut behind her. The words stayed. I looked down at my hand. It was shaking. I closed it into a fist. Alone or not, the child would be safe. The woman would be contained. And love would remain exactly where I'd buried it. That was the plan. And plans never failed me. Until they did.
By the time the black SUV doors closed, my hands were shaking so badly I had to wedge them between my thighs to stop. I hadn't agreed to anything. I hadn't said yes. And yet I was being driven through Manhattan like a package already claimed. The men in the front seat didn't look at me. They didn't need to. Their silence was heavier than shouting. The kind of silence that said resistance had already been accounted for and dismissed. I pressed a palm to my stomach, the motion instinctive, protective. "I'm sorry," I thought, not sure if I was apologizing to the baby or myself. The city blurred past the tinted windows. Neon signs, people laughing on sidewalks. A normal world that didn't know. I'd just been told my life was over in a sterile clinic room by a man who looked at me like an equation to be solved. Tommaso Pialo. The name landed like a bruise. I'd known of him, of course. Everyone with even a distant connection to the Romani underworld knew his name. The Pialo syndicate wasn't whispered about. It was feared openly. And now I was carrying his child. Accident, I told myself for the 100th time. This was an accident. But accidents didn't come with armed escorts and marriage ultimatums. The car slowed, then stopped. When the door opened, cold night air rushed in, sharp and clean, stealing my breath. I looked up, and my chest tightened. The building in front of us wasn't just a penthouse. It was a fortress, dressed up as luxury, steel and glass. Security cameras like unblinking eyes. Men posted at the entrance with a casual alertness of people used to violence. This was where he lived. This was where he planned to keep me. I stepped out slowly, refusing to stumble, refusing to look as scared as I felt. If I was going to be caged, I wouldn't arrive trembling. Inside, everything gleamed. Marble floors, high ceilings, too much space, too much quiet. It felt less like a home and more like a monument to control. A woman approached, older, composed, eyes sharp but not unkind. "I'm Sophia," she said. "Come with me." She didn't ask if I wanted to. She already knew the answer. The room she led me to was enormous. Neutral colors, floor-to-ceiling windows, a bed that looked untouched, like no one actually slept here. "This will be your room," she said. "My room. Not ours. Not temporary. Mine. Like a designated holding cell." "Am I allowed to leave?" I asked quietly. Sophia hesitated. "Just a fraction." "Not without permission." There it was. The door closed behind her with a soft, final click. I sank onto the edge of the bed, the strength draining out of me all at once. My breath came in shallow pools. The walls felt closer than they looked. I hadn't planned on this light. I hadn't planned on him. All I'd wanted was a child. A family that wouldn't disappear when things got hard. I told myself I could do it alone. That love could be something I built, not something given. Now love felt like the most dangerous thing in the world. A knock sounded. I looked up, heart racing. The door opened before I could answer. Tommaso filled the doorway. Without the clinic lights, he looked even more unreal. Tailored black suit, dark hair brushed back. His presence sucked the oxygen from the room. He didn't glance at the bed or the windows, only at me. "You'll be safe here," he said. Safe. As if that word could erase everything else. "I didn't agree to marry you," I replied. His gaze sharpened. "You don't have to agree. You have to comply." I stood, anger finally burning through the fear. "You don't get to own me because of a medical mistake." His jaw flexed. "That Mistake is my blood. And this is my body. I shot back. My life. For a moment something flickered across his face. Not guilt. Not softness. Recognition. You think I want this? He said lowly. You think this is how I plan my future? I laughed, short and bitter. You planned it so carefully you never thought about the woman on the other end. Silence stretched. He took a step closer. I didn't move. Tomorrow, he said, my lawyer will come. We'll make the marriage legal. Quiet, no press. No vows? I asked. A muscle in his cheek twitched. This isn't about romance. Good, I whispered, because I wouldn't survive pretending. Something in his eyes darkened. You'll survive because I say you will. He turned to leave. Tommaso. I called before I could stop myself. He paused, but didn't look back. I'm not your enemy, I said. I never was. For a long second, I thought he might turn around. That he might say something that proved he believed me. Instead, he said, You're a Romano, and walked out. The door closed. I slid my hand back to my stomach, tears finally spilling over. I tried, I whispered to the baby. I really did. Outside the window, the city glittered, beautiful and indifferent. And somewhere in this cold palace, the man who planned to cage me believed he was saving himself. Tomorrow, I would be his wife. Whether I broke or learned how to fight inside the cage remained to be seen.
I didn't sleep. I hadn't expected to. Sleep was a luxury for men who didn't have enemies circling and ghosts clawing at their ribs. Men who weren't standing on the edge of a war reignited by a woman carrying their blood. By dawn, I'd already ordered background checks rerun, security doubled, and every Romano communication line quietly monitored. And still, Chiara Romano was the variable I couldn't eliminate. I stood in the war room, jacket off, sleeves rolled to my forearms, staring at the city through bulletproof glass. New York looked calm from this height. Peaceful. It lied better than most people. Say it again, I said. Luca didn't hesitate. She's been estranged from her family for years. No money transfers. No visits. No protection detail. She lives small. That doesn't make her innocent. No, he agreed. But it makes her useless as a weapon. I turned slowly. Everyone is a weapon if you hold them the right way. Luca held my gaze. She didn't know who you were. I clenched my jaw. That was the detail that wouldn't settle. The clinic confirmed it. The doctor confirmed it. Even my own people, who trusted nothing that breathed, couldn't find a single connection between Chiara Romano and a plot against me, which meant either she was the best liar I'd ever met, or fate had a twisted sense of humor. You've increased security on her floor? I asked. Yes. 2 men outside at all times. Cameras live. And inside? Luca hesitated. Inside none. Good. I dismissed him with a flick of my fingers and poured myself a drink I didn't want. Whiskey burned down my throat, useless against the pressure building behind my sternum. I saw her again, standing in the clinic room. Chin lifted, eyes defiant, pregnant and terrified and still refusing to beg. Not like the women who usually crossed my path. She hadn't asked for mercy. She'd accused me of fear. The door chimed softly behind me. I didn't turn. The lawyer is coming at 10. I know. Her voice. It slid under my skin like a blade. I faced her. Chiara stood just inside the doorway, wearing a simple sweater and slacks, hair loose around her shoulders. No makeup. No jewelry. She looked younger than 26. Smaller. Like she'd been swallowed whole by my world overnight. And yet she met my eyes without flinching. You shouldn't be here, I said. It's my child's future you're negotiating, she replied. I should absolutely be here. I considered ordering her out. Instead, I gestured to the chair across from me. Sit. She didn't thank me. Another mark against her survival instinct. You've reviewed the agreement, I said. Yes. And it reads like a prison sentence. It reads like protection. For you, she countered. Not for me. I leaned back. Everything I do is for the child. That's not true, she said softly. Some of this is for your pride. The audacity stole my breath for half a second. Be careful, I warned. Or what? She asked. You'll lock me up harder? Her hand went to her stomach. Protective. Unconscious. Mine twitched at my side. You're alive because I'm being careful, I said. Your last name paints a target on your back whether you like it or not. You think I don't know that? Her voice cracked, just slightly. I grew up knowing my name could get someone killed. That's why I left. That caught. You left because you wanted to play house without consequences, I said, even as doubt pressed harder. I left because I was tired of being traded like currency, she snapped. I left because I wanted something that was mine. Silence hit between us, sharp and sudden. I stared at her, really looked this time. Not as leverage, not as a threat, but as a woman who'd walked away from power and paid for it in loneliness. You chose pregnancy alone, I said slowly. Why? Her throat bobbed. Because I didn't want to wake up one day and realize I'd waited my whole life for love that never came. The words landed too close to my own bones. I stood abruptly, the chair scraping back. Distance. I needed distance. You'll marry me, I said, turning away. That's non-negotiable. Then be honest, she said. Say it's because you're afraid to lose another child. I spun on her. The air went razor thin. You don't get to speak about that, I said. Her eyes softened. That was worse than anger. I'm sorry, she whispered. But I see it. You're not cruel. You're grieving. I crossed the space between us in 2 strides. Stopped inches from her. Grief makes men dangerous, I said. And you're standing in the blast radius. Her breath stuttered. She didn't step back. Then don't hurt me, she said. We're already bound. You don't need to punish me for surviving. Something inside my chest cracked. I straightened, forcing control back into place. The wedding is tomorrow. Her eyes widened. Tomorrow. Quiet. Legal. Final. And after, she asked. After you carry my heir. You stay alive. And you don't fall in love with me. A sad smile touched her lips. You don't have to worry about that. I didn't believe her. As she left the room, my phone buzzed. Luca's voice was tight. We have movement. Romano soldiers crossed into our territory. I closed my eyes briefly. War didn't wait for weddings. Double security on Chiara, I ordered. No exceptions. I ended the call and looked at the door she'd walked through. I'd planned for control. For containment. What I hadn't planned for was the growing certainty that marrying Chiara Romano wasn't going to cage her. It was going to expose exactly how vulnerable I'd become. And my enemies would smell it.
They dressed me like a secret. That was the first thought I had as 2 women I didn't know buttoned me into an ivory dress that felt far too soft for what it represented. No lace, no train, no romance. Just clean lines and expensive fabric meant to look respectable in court records and invisible to the world. A marriage designed not to be seen. I caught my reflection in the mirror and barely recognized myself. My face was pale, eyes too bright, lips pressed together like if I opened them, something irreversible might come out. This isn't how it was supposed to happen. But then again, nothing in my life ever had. Are you ready? One of the women asked gently. No, yes, I said anyway. They escorted me down quiet hallways that felt more like the inside of a vault than a home. Armed men stood at every corner. I felt their eyes track me, not with desire, but with assessment. Asset, liability, target, wife. The word landed heavy and unreal. The ceremony room was small. Too small for how permanent this was. A judge stood at the front, papers in hand, expression carefully neutral. No flowers, no guests, no music, only Tommaso. He stood near the window, dressed in black, posture flawless, face carved from stone. He didn't look at me when I entered, not until I stopped beside him. Then he turned. For half a second, something unreadable crossed his face. Not warmth, not tenderness, recognition. As if this, me, standing here, carrying his child, had finally crossed from plan to reality. Begin, he said to the judge. Just like that. The words blurred together. Legal language, responsibilities, terms. I answered when prompted, my voice steady even as my heart raced. I do. I said it without looking at him. When it was his turn, Tommaso didn't hesitate. I do. No ring, no kiss, just signatures on paper and a quiet, irrevocable shift in the universe. The judge nodded. You are now legally married." Just like that, I belonged to a man who didn't believe in love. The room emptied quickly. The judge left. The staff disappeared. Silence rushed in to fill the space. I stood there, unsure what came next. Tommaso broke the quiet. "You handled that well." It wasn't praise, just an observation. "I didn't have a choice," I replied. "No," he agreed. "You didn't." We faced each other, the weight of the moment settling like dust after an explosion. "So what now?" I asked. "Now you live," he said, "under my protection." I laughed softly, the sound brittle. "You say that like it's a gift." "It is," he said flatly. He gestured toward the door. "Come." I followed him back through the halls, my steps slower now, heavier. Each one felt like it was carrying me further from the person I'd been yesterday. We stopped outside a bedroom. "Our bedroom," he said. My chest tightened. I thought, "You'll have your own space," he interrupted. "This is for appearances. Nothing more." Relief and something sharper tangled in my chest. "Good." His eyes flicked to my face. "Don't misunderstand. This marriage is a shield, not a promise." "I never thought it was," I said. He opened the door. The room was vast, dark, immaculate, a bed large enough to sleep in without touching. Windows overlooking the city like it was something to be conquered. "I won't touch you unless you ask," he said abruptly. The words startled me. "I'm not a monster," he added, as if that needed clarification. I looked at him then, really looked. The rigid control, the tension in his shoulders, the exhaustion buried under authority. "I know," I said quietly. "Monsters don't warn you." Something shifted in his gaze. He moved past me, shrugging off his jacket. "Security will remain outside at all times." "And inside?" I asked. "No," he said. "You deserve privacy." I nodded. It was more kindness than I'd expected. "Tommaso," I said before he could leave. He paused. "I won't try to run," I said. "Not because I can't, but because I won't risk my baby." His jaw tightened. "Good. I will ask one thing, though." He turned, eyes sharp. "What?" "Don't make me feel like a hostage," I said. "I can survive a lot, but not that." Silence stretched. Finally, he said, "I don't intend to." Then he left. The door closed softly behind him. I sat on the edge of the bed, my hand drifting to my stomach again. "We're married," I whispered to the baby. "I don't know what that means yet, but we'll figure it out." Outside, somewhere beyond the walls, a city moved on. Inside this fortress, I was a wife in name only, bound to a man who thought love was lethal. And yet, beneath the fear, beneath the loss of choice, something unexpected stirred. A quiet, dangerous hope. Because if Tommaso Pialo truly believed this marriage was only a shield, he had no idea how deeply it was already cutting into both of us.
By the third day of marriage, I knew exactly how Chiara Romano took her coffee. No sugar. A splash of milk she never finished. She drank it standing by the windows, one hand always resting on her stomach, eyes on the city like she was memorizing a world she might never walk freely in again. It irritated me more than it should have. Routines were dangerous. They created familiarity. And familiarity bred attachment. Attachment got people killed. I watched her from the other side of the room as she finished breakfast in silence. The dining table between us might as well have been a border. She stayed on her side. I stayed on mine. "Eat more," I said. She looked up. "I did. You picked at it." "I'm not hungry." "You're pregnant," I replied flatly. Hunger is irrelevant. Her lips pressed together, but she took another bite without argument. A small victory. One I didn't enjoy as much as I should have. After breakfast, the house came alive with quiet efficiency. Guards rotated. Staff moved like ghosts. Everything ran on schedule. Except her. She didn't pace. Didn't test boundaries. Didn't ask questions meant to provoke. She simply existed. And that was the problem. I followed her to the sitting room where she paused by the windows again. Always the windows. Always the light. "You'll stay on this floor today," I said, "until we finish assessing threats." "You say that every day," she replied. Because every day the threat remains. She turned then, finally facing me fully. Am I allowed to go outside? No. Am I allowed to speak to anyone? You can speak to staff. What about friends? I stared at her. Do you have any? The question landed harder than I intended. Her shoulders stiffened. I had, she said quietly. Before my last name made them nervous. Regret was a useless emotion. I pushed it aside. You're safer here, I said. That's all that matters. For you, she replied. Or for me. For the child. She exhaled slowly, one hand tightening over her stomach. You keep saying that like I'm not part of the equation. I stepped closer. You became part of it the moment you chose to carry my heir. Her eyes flashed. I didn't choose you. No, she hadn't. That was the truth I kept circling. I didn't choose you either, I said. But here we are. The silence stretched. Taut. Fragile. I want to set rules, she said suddenly. I blinked. Excuse me. If we're going to live like this, she continued, voice steady, then I need to know where the lines are. I studied her. The courage it took to say that to me wasn't foolish. It was desperate, and desperation made people brave. Speak, I said. No threats, she said. Not unless there's real danger. I considered. Fine. No using my family against me. That depends on your family. She met my gaze. No, another pause. Agreed, I said. And I want to choose my own doctor. That's non-negotiable, I said instantly. Her chin lifted. Then choose one who speaks to me like a person, not a vessel. The word cut. I nodded once. Done. She let out a breath she'd been holding. Thank you. The gratitude unsettled me. You'll follow security protocols, I said. No wandering. No windows open. No visitors without clearance. I understand. And Chiara, I added, stopping her before she could turn away. She looked at me. If anything feels wrong, I said, you tell me immediately. Her brow furrowed. You don't trust your men? I don't trust coincidence. That earned a small, humorless smile. Neither do I. Later, in the quiet hours of the afternoon, the house fell into a tense calm. I reviewed reports, fielded calls, issued orders, and all the while, I was aware of her presence like a constant hum beneath my skin. When the gunfire came, it was distant, but unmistakable. I was on my feet before the echo faded. Lockdown, I barked into my phone. Now, I was moving before the confirmation came back, already halfway down the hall to her floor. Alarms were silent, by design, but the guards moved with sudden precision. I found her in the sitting room, standing by the windows again. Get away from there, I snapped. Her eyes widened. What's happening? I crossed the room in 3 strides, grabbing her arm, not roughly but firmly, and pulling her toward the interior hallway. Stay behind me, I ordered. The sound came again, closer this time. Her breath hitched. I felt it through the contact. I positioned myself between her and the direction of the noise, one hand braced on the wall, the other still gripping her arm. Tommaso, she whispered. I've got you, I said without thinking. The words hung in the air, heavy and absolute. She pressed a hand to her stomach. Instinct took over before reason could stop it. I covered her hand with mine. The contact jolted through me like electricity. She froze. I froze. Under my palm, something fluttered. A faint movement. Not imagined. Not memory. Real. My breath stalled. That was, she whispered. I didn't answer. Couldn't. Because for the first time since the clinic, since the accusation, since the marriage without vows, I felt my child move. The gunfire stopped. Voices crackled through my earpiece, reporting containment, perimeter secure. None of it mattered. All that mattered was the fragile life beneath my hand, and the woman holding it together with nothing but quiet strength. I pulled my hand away abruptly. Stay here, I said, stepping back, rebuilding the walls piece by piece. I'll deal with this. She nodded, eyes still wide, not with fear now, but something else. When I turned away, my chest burned. This marriage was supposed to be control, strategy, protection. Instead, it was becoming something far more dangerous, something that could make me hesitate. And in my world, hesitation was fatal.
I didn't sleep after the lockdown. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt it again. The unmistakable flutter beneath my skin. The proof that this wasn't just fear or theory or contracts signed in quiet rooms. There was a life inside me. And Tommaso Pialo had felt it too. The memory burned hotter than the gunfire. By morning, the penthouse had returned to its controlled calm. No alarms, no visible damage. Just the low hum of a machine that had decided not to break today. Sophia brought breakfast. Toast, fruit, tea. "You should eat," she said gently. "I will," I replied, though my appetite felt tangled up in nerves. When she left, I drifted back to the windows, as if the city might explain something it never had before. A knock came at the door. "Come in," I said, already knowing. Tommaso entered alone. No jacket, no gun visible, though I knew better than to assume anything about what he carried. "You're coming with me," he said. My pulse spiked. "Where?" "The doctor," I blinked. "Now?" "Yes." No explanation, no argument. The drive was silent, different car. Heavier security. Tommaso sat across from me this time, not beside. His gaze stayed forward, jaw set like he was bracing for impact. The clinic was private. Secure. Cold in that immaculate way that made everything feel unreal. The doctor smiled at me, spoke softly, explained things slowly, asked me questions. I almost cried at that alone. Tommaso stood near the wall, arms crossed, watching everything, guarding, measuring. "Everything looks healthy," the doctor said finally. "Would you like to hear the heartbeat?" My breath caught. Yes. The sound filled the room, fast, strong, undeniable. I pressed my lips together, tears slipping free despite my effort to stay composed. I glanced at Tommaso. His face had gone still in a way that frightened me more than anger ever had. "Would you like to see?" the doctor asked him. For a moment, I thought he might refuse. Then he stepped forward. The screen showed a blur of motion, shape not yet clear but undeniably present. "There," the doctor said, pointing. "That's your baby." Tommaso stared. Didn't blink, didn't breathe. Something inside him fractured so quietly I wasn't sure anyone but me could hear it. He didn't touch me. Didn't reach out, but his hand curled into a fist at his side, knuckles whitening like he was holding himself together by force alone. Outside the room, after the appointment was over, he walked ahead of me down the corridor. Too fast, like he needed distance from something chasing him. "Tommaso," I called. He stopped. I caught up, heart pounding. "You okay?" The question felt absurd, necessary anyway. "I don't need you to worry about me," he said. "I know," I replied. "But I do." He turned then, eyes dark, stormed. "Don't." The word was sharp, final. But his voice shook. Back at the penthouse, the house felt different, tighter, quieter. He disappeared into his office. I let him. Hours passed. I curled up on the couch, one hand on my stomach, the other gripping a throw blanket like it could anchor me. When he finally came back, it was late. Night had swallowed the city whole. "You should be resting," he said. I was waiting. "For what?" "For you," he paused. "Why?" I searched for the right answer and found only truth. Because today mattered. His shoulders rose and fell slowly. "Yes," he said. "It did." I stood, nerves buzzing. "You don't have to do this alone." He laughed softly. "Everything I've ever survived, I did alone." "And everything you lost?" I asked quietly. Silence. I stepped closer before fear could stop me. "I'm not her," I said gently. "But I'm not your enemy either." His eyes dropped to my stomach, lingering, torn. "I can't lose another family," he said. The confession stunned me. "You're not going to," I whispered. "You don't know that." "No," I agreed. "But I know I'm still here. And so is the baby." Something in his expression broke. He reached out, slower this time, asking without words. I nodded. His palm settled over my stomach. The baby moved again. Stronger this time. Tommaso inhaled sharply. That's real, he said hoarsely. Yes, I replied. We are. His hand stayed there longer than before. Protective. Reverent. Terrified. When he finally pulled away, his control was back in place. But it looked thinner now. Fragile. Get some rest, he said. I'll increase security tonight. Tommaso. He paused at the door. Thank you, I said, for letting me choose the doctor. A beat. You deserve more than permission, he replied. Then he left. I lay in bed later, staring at the ceiling, heart full and aching all at once. This child was changing everything, including him. And that scared me almost as much as it gave me hope, because men like Tommaso Pialo didn't survive softness. But maybe love didn't have to kill him this time. Maybe it could save us all.
The first rule of surviving grief was simple. Never give it a second chance to take something else from you. And yet that was exactly what Chiara was doing, without trying, without asking. Every time she looked at me like I could be more than the worst thing people said in whispers. I stood in my office with Luca on speaker, staring at the security feed of Chiara's floor. She moved slowly across the sitting room, one hand on her stomach, the other trailing along the back of a chair like she was teaching herself this cage by touch. Say it again, I said. We traced the clinic's internal access, Luca replied. The file was opened the night before her procedure. Not by the doctor. Not by the nurse. By an admin login. My blood cooled. Name. A temporary contractor. Hired through an agency. They disappeared 2 days later. So it wasn't an accident. Or at least not entirely. I gripped the edge of my desk until the wood creaked. And Chiara. No link, Luca said. No payments. No calls. Nothing. The silence that followed was heavy, layered with the thing I hated most. Doubt. Because if Chiara didn't orchestrate the mix-up, then someone else did. Someone who wanted my heir inside a Romano woman. Someone who wanted a marriage to ignite a war. A knock came at my office door. Before I answered, Chiara pushed it open. I ended the call without a word. She stepped inside like she'd done it 100 times, not 7 days into a forced marriage, not still learning which corners of this penthouse were safe. She wore a simple sweater again, hair loose, face soft with tiredness, and that soft tiredness hit me in a place armor didn't cover. You shouldn't be here, I said. I knocked, she replied. You just didn't answer. I stared at her. You're supposed to have guards with you. They're outside, she said, then added quietly. They always are. There it was again. The truth I couldn't argue with. Chiara's eyes flicked to the monitor on my desk, security feeds, reports, names. She didn't ask what I was looking at. She didn't try to pry. Instead, she said, I want to go outside. I felt irritation flare, sharp and immediate. No, her gaze hardened. You said if I needed lines, I could set them. I said you could speak, I corrected. I didn't say I'd grant wishes. Her nostrils flared. She inhaled slow, like she was forcing herself to stay calm. I'm not asking for a party, she said. I'm asking for air. I feel like I'm disappearing in here. I watched her. The way her shoulders lifted slightly with each breath. The way her hand kept drifting to her stomach, protective and unconscious. The way she was trying not to sound like a prisoner begging. I'd caged her. And the disgusting part was, I'd done it so well she couldn't even prove it was a cage to anyone outside these walls. You're not disappearing, I said, colder than I meant to. You're surviving. Is that all you want from me? She asked. Survival. Yes, I snapped. Because survival means the baby survives. Her eyes flashed. I am not just a container for your child. The words struck harder than they should have. I stood slowly, forcing my temper into control before it became something uglier. You don't understand what's happening. Then explain it, she said. Stop treating me like I'm too fragile for the truth. I should have lied. It would have been simpler, cleaner. But she wasn't fragile. She was something else. Something that made honesty feel like a weapon I didn't know how to hold anymore. Someone tampered with the clinic, I said, watching her face. Your file was accessed the night before your procedure. Her color drained. What? It wasn't random, I continued. And if it wasn't random, then you're not just a target because of your last name. You're a target because someone planned this. Chiara's lips parted, breath catching. You're saying someone chose me. I didn't answer, because the next words were worse. And if they chose you, I said, They knew a Romano woman pregnant with my heir would start a war. Her hand tightened over her stomach, as if she could shield the baby from information. Why would anyone want that? I stepped closer, voice low. Because war makes men sloppy. War makes syndicates vulnerable. And vulnerability creates opportunity. Opportunity for who? I held her gaze. For whoever wants my seat. Chiara went very still. In that stillness, I saw it. Fear, yes, but not for herself. For the baby. For what this child meant in a world where everything had a price. You think someone inside your own world did this, she whispered. I don't think, I said. I know it's possible. She swallowed hard. And you still thought it was me. Guilt was a useless emotion. But it rose anyway, hot and unwanted. I thought it was the easiest explanation, I said. And now, she asked. I hesitated. The truth was dangerous. Now I don't know, I admitted. Chiara stared at me as if she'd never expected those words from my mouth. A man, like me, didn't confess uncertainty. But she didn't take advantage of it. She simply stepped closer, so close I could smell the faint trace of soap on her skin, clean and human in a life that was neither. This is why you're so controlling, she said softly. Because you're terrified. My jaw tightened. Stop diagnosing me. I'm not, she said. I'm seeing you. That was worse. Seeing meant understanding. Understanding meant connection. Connection meant loss. I turned away, moving to the window, putting distance between us before I did something stupid, like reach for her again. Like touch her belly and pretend the world wasn't made of knives. You don't go outside, I said, voice flat final. Not yet. Chiara's voice went quieter. Tommaso, I can't breathe in here. I forced myself to stay still, to keep my hands at my sides, to keep my heart out of this. You'll breathe, I said, because I'm not burying another family. Silence. Then behind me, the smallest sound, like she'd exhaled and something inside her had broken. When I turned, she was standing with tears in her eyes, furious at herself for it. I didn't ask to be your family, she said, voice shaking. I asked to be treated like a person. The words landed like a slap. I took one step toward her, then another, stopping just in front of her. I don't know how to do this, I said, low enough that it felt like a confession I could deny later. I know how to keep people alive. I know how to destroy threats. I don't know how to, her breath hitched. How to what? She whispered. How to let someone close without imagining their blood on my hands. I didn't say it. Instead, I reached out, not to her face, not to her waist, only to her wrist. Light contact. A question. She didn't pull away. I guided her hand to my chest, just over my heart. The beat beneath my suit was steady, controlled, but it was there, undeniable. You want proof you're not invisible? I murmured. There it is. Chiara's fingers curled slightly, as if she could feel the tension under my skin, the war inside me. Her eyes lifted to mine. You're not made of stone, she said. I leaned closer, so close my breath brushed her cheek, and for one suspended second, the entire world narrowed to the space between us. Then my phone rang. The sound shattered everything. I stepped back instantly, ripping the moment apart before it could become something real. I answered without looking away from her. Speak. Luca's voice came tight, urgent. We have a situation. Romano soldiers just hit one of our perimeter crews, 2 blocks from the building. Chiara froze. My blood went cold. Is it an attack? I demanded. Not sure, Luca said. But there's more. Someone leaked your route from the clinic yesterday. Only 3 people had it. I felt Chiara's eyes on me, wide with dawning horror. An inside leak. Close. Close enough to reach her. Lock the penthouse down, I ordered. No one in. No one out. I ended the call and looked at Chiara. Her voice was small. They know where I am. Yes, I said. I crossed the room, cupping her elbow, not gentle, not rough, just certain. Come, I ordered. Now. She didn't argue this time, because the air in the penthouse had changed. It wasn't a cage anymore. It was a fortress under siege.
Tommaso didn't lead me to my room. He led me deeper. Past the bright marble, past the glass walls and skyline views, into the parts of the penthouse that felt like they were built for storms. Windowless corridors, thicker doors, quieter air. The kind of architecture you didn't design for comfort. You designed it to survive. Where are we going? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Safe room, he said without looking back. The word shouldn't have comforted me. It should have made my skin crawl. A safe room meant you expected danger, Not someday, not theoretically. Now. My heart hammered as we reached a heavy steel door hidden behind a panel that looked like ordinary wall. Tommaso keyed in a code so fast it was muscle memory. The door clicked, then swung inward. He motioned me inside. The room was stark. Reinforced walls, a couch, a small table, bottled water stacked neatly, a medical kit, a second phone, a quiet camera in the corner. No windows. No way to tell time except the tightness in your chest. Tommaso shut the door behind us and turned, shoulders tense. I crossed my arms, instinctively curling around my stomach. How long do we stay in here? As long as I say. The old anger flared, even with fear scraping at me. You can't keep doing that. His gaze cut to mine. Yes, I can. I'm your wife, I said, hating the word even as I used it. Not your hostage. His jaw tightened. Right now, you're my responsibility. And I didn't ask for that? I shot back. I didn't ask for this either, he snapped, stepping closer. But the world doesn't care what we ask for. His voice was controlled, but I could hear it. The thread under the steel, the strain, the panic he refused to name. Tommaso, I said more softly, if someone leaked our route, it means someone close is compromised. He didn't blink. Or bought. I swallowed hard. And you don't know who? No. The word landed like a gunshot. I stared at him, my mouth dry. Then how do you know your people outside that door are yours? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device. Matte black, sleek, ugly in its purpose. He pressed a button. A faint hum vibrated through the room. Jammer, he said. No signals in or out. My stomach clenched. So we're cut off. We're protected. Same thing, I whispered. His eyes flicked to my belly again, like he couldn't help it, like the baby was a magnet he didn't trust. Sit, he ordered. I bristled on reflex, then forced myself to obey, not because he commanded it, but because my legs were starting to shake. I lowered onto the couch, breathing shallowly. Tommaso paced once, twice, then stopped near the door, listening. I listened too. At first there was only silence. Then faint sounds. Footsteps, distant and muffled. Voices. Too low to catch words. My fingers gripped the fabric of my sweater. Is there an attack? I don't know yet, he said. That's not an answer. It's the only honest one. He replied, and something about that honesty made my throat tighten. I'd asked him to treat me like a person. He was. This was the reality of his world. Uncertainty, betrayal, and violence that arrived without permission. My breath came faster. I pressed my palm to my stomach. You said they'd come for me. He looked at me then, fully. Yes. And you still brought me here. His eyes narrowed. I brought you here because you're safer with me than anywhere else. You mean safer in your cage, I said bitterly. His expression flickered. Something like pain, quickly buried. Call it what you want. Another sound outside, sharper. A sudden bark of a voice. My body went cold. Tommaso moved instantly, pulling his gun from where I hadn't even noticed it was hidden. He held it like it was part of him. My mouth went dry. Is that? Quiet, he said. Not cruelly. Just urgently. I clamped my lips shut, heart slamming so hard I could feel it in my fingertips. Tommaso pressed his ear to the door. A thud echoed down the corridor. Then another. The air in the safe room turned heavy. My skin prickled as if my body knew what my mind was still refusing to accept. We're being attacked, I whispered. Tommaso didn't contradict me. He backed away from the door and came to stand in front of me, placing himself between my body and the only exit like he could shield me from bullets with bone and will. His voice dropped. If I tell you to get behind the table, you do it. My throat tightened. If you tell me to run? You don't run, he said harshly. You stay where I can reach you. Tommaso, his eyes locked on mine, dark and absolute. Chiara, listen to me. If anything happens, you curl around your stomach. You protect the baby. The words hit like a punch. If anything happens. I swallowed hard, forcing air into my lungs. What about me? For the first time, the answer wasn't immediate. His gaze dipped to my mouth, then my eyes, like he was weighing truth against survival. Then, quiet as a confession he would deny later, he said, I'll protect you too. My breath caught. Before I could respond, something slammed into the safe room door, violent, metallic, the whole frame shuddering. Dust trembled from the ceiling seam. I flinched. Tommaso didn't. He lifted his gun and aimed at the door. Stand steady, eyes cold. Who's there? He called. No answer. Another slam. The lock held, but I could hear it straining. My hands flew to my belly, panic rising so fast it made my vision pulse. Tommaso, please. Behind the table, he ordered. I scrambled down, crouching behind the heavy table, curling my body around my stomach the way he'd instructed. My cheek pressed against cold wood. I could taste fear. Tommaso stayed standing. Of course he did. I peeked through the gap, watching his silhouette. Broad shoulders, rigid control. The man who terrified everyone else now poised like a wall meant to stop the world. The door shuddered again. A crack splintered in the frame. Then, gunfire. Not inside the room. Outside. Rapid. Deafening in the hallway. I squeezed my eyes shut, every sound punching through me. My heart thudded so hard I thought it might tear loose. Tommaso fired once, through the door. The bang echoed, harsh and final. Then silence. A beat. 2. I heard a voice, strained and urgent. One of his men. Boss! It's clear. Tommaso didn't lower his gun. Say the code. A pause. Then, Black River. Tommaso exhaled, barely. He moved to the door, unlocked it, and opened it a fraction, gun still raised. I stayed frozen behind the table, unable to move. My whole body vibrated. Tommaso spoke low. Report. 2 intruders, the guard said, disguised as maintenance. They got past the elevator checkpoint. One's down. The other. His voice tightened. The other escaped into the stairwell. Tommaso's face went dangerous in a way I could feel even from here. How? We think someone inside gave them the access code. My stomach dropped through the floor. Tommaso turned slowly back toward me, eyes finding mine over the edge of the table. They're inside, I whispered. Yes, he said. And the scariest part wasn't the gunfire. It was the way Tommaso looked at me, like he'd just realized something worse than the attack itself. This wasn't just a threat outside his walls. It was betrayal within them. And whoever had done it was still here.
The safe room door was still open when I made the decision. Not the tactical one. Not the obvious one. Lock the building down, sweep the floors, interrogate the staff until dawn. The other decision. The one I'd been refusing since the clinic. If someone inside my walls had helped them, then Chiara wasn't just a target. She was bait. And if she was bait, then the only way to keep her alive was to make her untouchable. Not hidden. Claimed. I stepped into the hallway and the smell hit me first. Gunpowder, sweat, panic. 2 of my men held a third upright, his face bloodied, his maintenance uniform torn where they'd ripped his sleeve up to check for tattoos. Not staff, Luca reported, appearing at my side like he'd been born from shadow. His eyes went past me, toward the safe room, toward Chiara. She okay? I didn't answer him. I looked at the body on the floor instead. 1 intruder. Down. The second had escaped into the stairwell, which meant he was either gone already or still in the building, waiting for another opening. Either way, this was no longer a question of if someone had inside access. It was a question of who. Seal the stairwells, I ordered. Every exit. Every roof access. Nobody leaves this building without my voice saying so. Luca nodded once. Already in motion. I turned to my men holding the captured intruder. Bring him to the interrogation room. The man coughed, trying to laugh through blood. You think, he wheezed. You think you're the only one who can cage a woman? My vision sharpened into something cold and precise. I stepped close enough that he could smell death on my breath. Say her name, I said quietly, and I'll remove your tongue. His eyes widened, fear finally breaking through bravado. Good. I didn't kill him yet. Not because I was merciful, because I needed the truth first. I turned back toward the safe room. Chiara was still crouched behind the table, her face pale, eyes wide and shining. One hand curled around her stomach like she was trying to become a shield. When our eyes met, something twisted in my chest. Not softness, ownership, responsibility, rage. I stepped inside and shut the door behind me, cutting the corridor noise in half. "It's over," I said. Her voice trembled. "One got away." "Yes." Her throat bobbed. "So it's not over." I held her gaze. "No, it's not." Slowly, carefully, she rose from behind the table. Her movements were measured, like her body was afraid sudden motion might invite bullets back into existence. "You," she swallowed. "You shot through the door. I warned them. That doesn't make it less terrifying." The honesty in her voice did something dangerous. It made me want to reach for her, to pull her into my chest and let her feel that I was solid, that I was here, that nothing would get through me. I didn't. I stepped closer anyway. "You followed instructions," I said. "Good." Her eyes flashed with anger through the fear. "Don't praise me like a dog." The words should have irritated me. Instead, a grim satisfaction sparked. She still had fight in her. She wasn't broken. Not yet. "I'm not praising," I said. "I'm acknowledging you didn't freeze." "I did freeze," she whispered. "I just moved anyway." That was courage. Real courage wasn't loud. It was shaking hands and steady steps. My jaw tightened as I took in her face, too pale, too tight around the mouth. And the thought of her bleeding on my floor, no, not again. "We're changing the plan," I said. Her brows drew together. "What plan?" "The one where you stay invisible." "I'm not invisible," she snapped, then faltered when she heard the lie in it. "I mean, you are," I cut in. "To the public, to the families, to anyone watching us." Her voice went quiet. "That's what you wanted." "Yes," I said. And it was a mistake. A beat of silence. Chiara stared at me like she didn't know what to do with the words. "What does that mean?" she asked. "It means I'm going to make it clear," I said, "that you are mine." Her breath caught. "Tommaso, I'm not asking," I said, voice hardening. "This is protection. It sounds like possession." "It is," I said, and let the truth hit between us like a blade. Because possession is the language my enemies understand. Her hand moved over her stomach again, protective and instinctive. "If you make me public, my family—" "Your family already knows," I said. "They just haven't decided what to do about it yet." Fear flickered across her face. "I don't want to be used to start a war." "You won't be used," I said. "Not by them." I saw her swallow. Saw her try to steady herself. "And by you?" she asked softly. The question landed deeper than it had any right to. I stared at her for a long second, then stepped even closer, lowering my voice. "Chiara," I said, "if someone touches you, they die." Her lashes trembled. "That's not a promise," I continued. "That's a rule." I expected her to flinch. Instead, she lifted her chin, eyes bright. "Then stop making me feel like I'm already dead." Something inside me snapped taut. I reached out, slow, deliberate, placing my hand on her upper arm. Not to restrain her, to anchor her. Her skin was warm under my palm. "I'm going to deal with the traitor," I said. "Then I'm going to deal with the Romanos." Her breath shuddered. "How?" "With clarity," I replied. "And fear." I led her to the chair and made her sit, this time gently, not like an order, but like a decision. I crouched in front of her, bringing my eyes level with hers. "Listen to me," I said. "For the next few hours, you don't move without a guard. Not one step. Not for water. Not for air. Not for stubborn pride." Her mouth tightened. "I hate this." "I know," I said. "Hate it and live anyway." Her eyes glistened. "You talk like living is the only thing that matters." "It is," I said, because the alternative was a hospital hallway and a flatline and my hands empty again. I stood, ready to leave, when she caught my sleeve. The touch was light, but it stopped me like a gun pressed to my spine. Tommaso Pialo didn't stop for anyone, except her. I looked down at her hand on my sleeve, then at her face. "Don't go," she whispered, barely audible. The request wasn't romantic. It was human. It cracked something open in me I didn't want exposed. My voice came out low. "I have to." Her fingers tightened. "Promise you'll come back." Promises were for fools. Promises were how you tempted fate. "And yet, I'll come back," I said. Her hand fell away slowly, like she couldn't believe I'd said it. I stepped out into the corridor where Luca waited. His gaze flicked to my face. "Boss, get me everyone," I said. "All captains, all allies, every family that still answers when I call." Luca's eyes narrowed. "You're making a move." "Yes." "And Chiara." I looked back at the safe room door. A soft sound came from inside, her breath, her movement, proof she was still alive. "She's the move," I said. Luca inhaled sharply. "Publicly. Tonight," I said. "I'm ending the whispering." A guard approached fast. "Boss, your prisoner's talking." "Good." I turned toward the interrogation room, the rage sharpening into something clean and lethal. "Then I'll find out who opened my door," I said. "And I'll make an example so brutal no one forgets who she belongs to." As I walked away, my phone buzzed again. A message, unknown number. 2 words on the screen. "He knows." My blood went ice cold. Because there was only one he that mattered in this war, Chiara's brother. The Romano boss. And if he knew, then the next move wouldn't be mine.
The safe room didn't feel safe once you knew someone had opened the door on purpose. I sat on the couch with my hands folded over my stomach, trying to breathe like the air wasn't heavier in here, thicker, trapped, tasting faintly of metal and panic. A guard stood outside. Another, somewhere down the hall. Tommaso's men moved like shadows behind the walls, and still I couldn't stop picturing that violent slam against the door. The frame shuddering. Tommaso firing through it. His body in front of mine like he could take a bullet for a promise he didn't believe in. A soft knock came. Before I could answer, the door opened and Sophia slipped inside with a tray of food and a glass of water. Her face was carefully composed, but her eyes weren't. "You should eat," she said again, like she could speak normal into existence. I took the water with shaking fingers. "Is it finished?" Sophia hesitated. "For now." That was not comfort. It was a warning. She set the tray down and looked at me for a long moment, her gaze dropping to my stomach. "The baby?" I swallowed, still moving. A flicker of relief crossed her face. Then it vanished behind professionalism. "Good." She turned to leave. "Sophia?" I blurted before she could disappear back into the shadows. Do you think Tommaso will really keep me safe?" Sophia paused with her hand on the door. Her answer came quiet. "He's kept a lot of people alive." "That's not what I asked." She glanced back, and for a second I saw the woman beneath the employee. The woman who had probably cleaned blood out of marble and called doctors at 3 a.m. "He will keep you safe," she said softly. "Because if he fails, he won't survive it, even if his body does." Then she was gone. I sat there with the words twisting in my chest, even if his body does. So that was the truth of it. This wasn't just about protection. It was about his survival. About grief that still had its claws in him. About a dead woman's ghost and a man who believed love killed the things it touched. A guard's voice murmured outside the door. "Low. Urgent." Another voice answered. Footsteps passed. My skin prickled. I forced myself to stand and pace the small room, one careful lap at a time. My legs felt too tight, like my body wanted to run, even though my brain knew there was nowhere to go. A sudden flutter inside me stopped me mid-step. I pressed my palm to my belly. "There you are," I whispered, voice trembling. "We're okay. We're still okay." Another knock, harder this time. Before I could answer, the door opened, and Tommaso stepped in. He looked like he'd been carved out of night, sleeves rolled up, no jacket. A faint smear of something dark on his knuckles that could have been blood or just shadow. His eyes were colder than the room. But he was here. My throat tightened. "You came back," I said, hating how small my voice sounded. His gaze pinned me. "I said I would." He didn't apologize. Men like him didn't. They returned like returning was the only language they trusted. "What happened?" I asked. His jaw flexed. "We caught one, the other ran." "And the traitor?" My pulse spiked as I said the word. His eyes narrowed slightly. "Not confirmed." Not confirmed meant not dead. My stomach turned. Tommaso looked around the room as if checking it for cracks, then took one step closer to me. not close enough to touch. Close enough that I could feel the heat of him. "I'm moving you," he said. My heart kicked. "Where?" "Not out of the building," he added, as if he knew exactly what I was about to think. "To my floor, my sightline." "My room isn't." "Your room is compromised," he cut in. "Everything is compromised until I know who opened my door." I stared at him. "So the answer is to put me closer to you?" "Yes." "And you call that protection?" "It is protection," he said flatly. "And it's also strategy." The honesty of that hit like a bruise. I drew a breath, steadying myself. "You said you were going to make me untouchable." His eyes didn't blink. "I am." "What does that mean?" I asked, though I already felt the shape of the answer. He didn't hesitate. "Tonight people will see you, hear you, understand what you are." My stomach clenched. "A symbol. A wife," he corrected, voice sharp. "And the mother of my heir." The words sent a chill through me. "Tommaso," I whispered, "if my brother sees me." His expression tightened. "He already knows." My breath left my lungs. "How?" I managed. "Because someone wanted him to," Tommaso said. "Someone wanted this to spread. They wanted pressure. Reaction." I wrapped my arms around myself. "He'll think I betrayed them." "He'll think whatever suits him," Tommaso replied. "Your brother doesn't think in feelings. He thinks in power." I flinched because it was true. The few times I'd seen my brother since I left, his eyes had been colder than mine. "I don't want to be used to pull him into a war," I said. I left that world. I tried to leave. Tommaso's gaze dropped to my stomach again, lingering like it hurt. "You can't leave, blood." "I can't." My voice cracked. "But I can refuse to be a weapon." His eyes lifted slowly to mine. "Do you know why that man got as far as the hallway?" I shook my head. "Because they thought you were hidden," he said. "A secret. A soft spot no one would notice until it was too late." My skin went cold. "They got that close," he continued, voice low, dangerous, "because I tried to keep you invisible." He took another step. Closer now, not touching. Just there, dominating the air. "Tonight," he said. "I reverse it." I swallowed hard. "And if it makes it worse?" His mouth twisted. Something like bitterness. "Then it was always going to get worse." He turned slightly, reaching into his pocket. My body went tense, expecting a weapon. Instead, he pulled out a phone. He didn't hand it to me. He held it up so I could see the screen. 2 words. Unknown number. He knows. My knees went weak. "That's him." Tommaso's eyes sharpened. "You recognize the number?" "No," I whispered. "But the phrasing, it's how my brother's people speak, like I'm an object being reported on." Rage flickered across Tommaso's face. Fast, controlled, lethal. "Good," he said. I blinked. "Good? It means he'll move," Tommaso said. "And when he moves, he exposes who's feeding him information." My stomach turned. "So you're baiting my brother." Tommaso didn't deny it. "Chiara," he said, voice rougher now. "They already used you once, at the clinic. I didn't create that. I walked into it." His hand lifted, stopping halfway between us, like he was about to touch my cheek, then changed direction and settled, careful and firm, on my shoulder instead. The contact shocked me more than his threats ever had. "This time," he said quietly, "I'm using the trap to catch the hand that set it." My throat tightened. "And what if I get hurt while you're hunting?" Tommaso's grip tightened just enough to make the answer clear before he even spoke. "Then I burn the world down," he said. I stared at him, heart thudding. The terrifying part was that I believed him. The even more terrifying part was what that belief did to me, how it warmed something inside my chest that had been cold for years. "I don't want your world to burn," I whispered. "I just want my baby to live." Tommaso's eyes softened, barely, like a crack in ice. "Then do exactly what I say tonight. Fear fluttered inside me, matching the baby's movement. "What are you making me do?" I asked. Tommaso leaned in slightly, voice turning intimate in the most dangerous way. "You're gonna stand beside me," he said, "where everyone can see you." A beat. "And if your brother calls," he added, "you're going to let me answer." My breath hitched. Because that wasn't protection, that was declaration. And somewhere deep in my bones, I knew the moment my brother heard Tommaso Pialo's voice on my line, the war would stop being a shadow in the hallway. It would become the whole sky.
By nightfall, the penthouse wasn't a home. It was a stage. My men moved with the quiet precision of a funeral procession. Black suits, earpieces, weapons hidden where only trained eyes would notice. The main living area had been cleared, lights adjusted, security cameras repositioned. Not for comfort, for optics. Because tonight wasn't about hiding Chiara Romano. Tonight was about making the world understand a single, irreversible fact. She was under my name, and anyone who reached for her would lose their hands. I watched her from the doorway as Sophia helped her into a dark, elegant dress that wasn't bridal and wasn't casual, something in between. Something that said wife without saying fairy tale. Chiara's hair was down, soft waves over her shoulders. Her face was pale, but her chin was lifted. She looked like a woman walking into a storm on purpose. When Sophia stepped away, Chiara turned and met my eyes. "I feel like I'm about to be fed to wolves," she said. "You are," I replied. Her throat tightened. "That's comforting." "It should be," I said, stepping closer. "Because the wolves are afraid of me." A flicker of something crossed her expression. Fear, anger, and beneath it, a stubborn refusal to crumble. "You're sure this is necessary?" she asked. I didn't soften it. Someone tried to break into the safe room. They will try again. The only difference now is that they won't be guessing where you are. They'll know. And they'll know I want them to know. Chiara's hand drifted to her stomach. Protective. Instinctive. My gaze followed it like it always did now. Like my body recognized my blood before my mind could build walls around it. "I hate that your plan involves me being visible," she said quietly. "I spent my whole life trying to disappear from that world." "I know," I said. "And now I'm being announced." "Yes." She let out a slow breath. "What if my brother comes for me?" My jaw tightened. "Then he steps into my territory." "And if he comes to kill you," she whispered. "I've had men try," I said. "They're all dead." Her eyes searched my face, like she wanted to find a crack where mercy lived. She wouldn't. Not tonight. I offered her my hand. Chiara stared at it like it was another contract. "I'm not doing this because I trust you," she said. I held her gaze. "Good. Trust is a weakness." Her lips pressed together. Then she placed her hand in mine anyway. Her skin was warm, trembling slightly. I closed my fingers around hers, firm, steady, not gentle, not rough. Final. We walked into the main room together. Captains were already there. A few allies. A few men who claimed loyalty because it benefited them. Faces I'd known for years. Faces I'd killed beside. Faces I still didn't fully trust. They all looked at her. Pregnant belly faintly visible now. My ring on her finger, placed earlier, quick and silent, no ceremony, catching light when she moved. A ripple went through the room. Not spoken, but understood. So it's real. I guided Chiara to stand beside me. Not behind. Not in the corner. Beside. "This is my wife," I said, voice calm, carrying. "Chiara Pialo." Chiara's fingers tightened around mine. A few men nodded. A few looked away too quickly, already calculating what this meant for the balance of power. Good. Let them calculate. I continued, eyes sweeping the room. Someone breached my building today. Someone tried to reach her. The air sharpened. "I don't care what family you serve," I said. "I don't care what flag you wave. If you touch her, if you even speak her name with disrespect, I will end you, and I will end the men who raised you." Silence. Heavy. Satisfied. Then, my phone vibrated in my pocket. Not a normal call. A number my system flagged instantly. Unknown. Masked. But routed through channels I'd seen before. Romano. Chiara went still beside me. I felt it through the way her hand stiffened in mine. I lifted the phone to my ear without breaking my posture. "Speak," I said. A voice came through, calm, male, controlled. The kind of calm that came from growing up with blood as a language. "Tommaso Pialo," the voice said. "You're wearing my sister like a trophy." Chiara's breath caught. So it was him. Her brother. I kept my gaze forward, my voice steady. Your sister is my wife. A low laugh. You think paperwork makes her yours? I think your men tried to break into my home today, I said. So yes, I think you care. Silence on the line. Then quieter. Put her on. Chiara's fingers dug into my palm. I didn't move the phone. No, she's still Romano, he said. And I'm still her blood. You lost the right to claim her when you let her live alone, I replied. Chiara flinched, tiny, but I felt it. The voice sharpened. Careful. I stepped slightly closer to Chiara, my shoulder nearly brushing hers. A message without words. You're not alone. I'm being careful, I said. That's why I'm calling you back instead of burying your messenger in the river. Another pause. Then, why her? The question was almost genuine. Like even he couldn't understand the twist of fate that had put Chiara's body in my hands. She's carrying my heir, I said simply. A beat. Then his voice dropped. And if she loses it? My blood iced over. Watch your words. Answer, he said. Chiara's hand trembled. She didn't speak. She didn't interrupt. But I felt her heart in her pulse, frantic against my skin. If she loses it, I said, voice turning low, lethal, your family will be ash. The line went silent for 2 full seconds. Then he spoke again, slower now. You already lost one. Every muscle in my body locked. The room around me blurred at the edges. Chiara's gaze snapped to my face, eyes wide with shock, because she hadn't known that part. Not fully. Not the shape of it. Not the way it still owned me. You don't speak about her, I said through my teeth. But the damage was done. The ghost was in the room now. My dead lover. My dead child. The hallway. The flatline. The reason I'd built my life out of steel. The reason Chiara was wearing my name like armor. You think I don't know, her brother murmured. You think I don't know who ordered it? Chiara's breath hitched sharply. My blood went colder than it had during gunfire. Say it, I demanded. A soft chuckle. Not on the phone. My grip tightened around Chiara's hand so hard she winced. I loosened immediately, just enough to remind myself she was real. She was here. She was not a memory I could lose again. Her brother's voice came again, almost satisfied. Bring her to neutral ground, he said. Tomorrow night. 1 hour. No tricks. No, I said instantly. You don't get to keep her from her blood forever, he replied. And you don't get to pretend you're the only monster in this city. I felt Chiara's eyes on me, pleading without words. Not trust. Need. A need so raw it scraped my ribs. I'll respond, I said finally. Not tonight. Tomorrow, he repeated. Or I come to you. The line clicked dead. I lowered the phone slowly. The room was silent. My men watched me, waiting for orders, waiting for violence, waiting for the next move. Chiara stared up at me, her face pale. You knew, she whispered. You knew you lost. I didn't let her finish. I didn't want the words spoken out loud in front of wolves. I leaned closer to her ear, voice low enough that only she could hear. I'll tell you everything, I said. Later, when no one can use it against you. Her eyes filled, but she blinked it back. Strong. Always strong. And then, as if the universe wanted to punish me for even promising honesty, Luca's voice cut through my earpiece, tight with urgency. Boss, we have a problem. I didn't move my gaze from Chiara. What? The intruder we captured, Luca swallowed. He's dead. My pulse turned into ice. He was in our custody, Luca continued. Locked. Guarded. And someone still got to him. A betrayal inside my walls. Again, Chiara's fingers tightened in mine. And I knew, with a certainty that tasted like blood, tomorrow night wasn't just a meeting. It was a trap. And I was walking my wife straight into it.
The city looked different when you knew someone was planning to bleed on it. Night pressed against the windows of the penthouse, thick and watchful, as if it had leaned closer to listen. The room was still full of people, men with weapons hidden under silk and loyalty worn like masks. But everything felt far away, muffled by the echo of my brother's voice still ringing in my ears. You don't get to keep her from her blood forever. I stood beside Tommaso, my hands still locked in his, my pulse skidding wildly beneath my skin. Everyone else saw power when they looked at him. I saw a man holding himself together with sheer will. The meeting dissolved slowly after the call ended. Men murmured. Phones came out. Orders were given in low voices that carried violence in every syllable. I barely registered any of it. All I could think about was tomorrow night. Neutral ground. 1 hour. No tricks. A lie wrapped in polite words. Tommaso guided me away from the room without a word, his grip firm but not painful, like he was afraid I might disappear if he loosened it. We moved through corridors and locked doors until the world narrowed to quiet again. When we reached the bedroom, he shut the door behind us and leaned his forehead against it for a brief, dangerous second. I'd never seen him do that. Not lean, not pause. My chest tightened. "You lost a child," I said softly. He went still. "I didn't want you to hear it like that," he replied. "But I needed to hear it," I said. "If I'm standing in the middle of this war, I don't get to be protected by ignorance." He turned slowly, eyes dark and unreadable. "Knowing will make it harder." "I'm already here," I said. "Nothing about this is easy." Silence stretched between us, thick with things we'd avoided naming. Finally, he spoke. "She was pregnant," he said. "We weren't married. I didn't want to cage her. I thought love meant letting her choose." His voice tightened. "They ambushed us outside a restaurant. Bullets meant for me." My stomach twisted. "She died in the hospital," he continued. "So did the baby." I swallowed hard, tears burning behind my eyes. "I'm sorry." He laughed once, hollow. "Everyone is." I stepped closer without thinking, my hand rising to his chest, pressing flat over his heart like I needed proof it was still beating. He stiffened, but he didn't stop me. "That's why you're terrified," I whispered. "Not of me, of history repeating itself." His hand came up slowly, covering mine where it rested against him. "Yes," he said simply. The word felt like a confession carved into bone. "And my brother," I said quietly. "He knows something." Tommaso's jaw tightened. "He claims he knows who ordered the hit." My blood ran cold. "Do you think he's telling the truth?" "I think," Tommaso said, eyes burning, "that tomorrow will decide whether he's bluffing or trying to bury us both." Fear bloomed in my chest, sharp and undeniable. "You're still going?" "Yes." "And you're taking me?" "Yes." I pulled my hand back, wrapping my arms around myself. "That's insane." "It's inevitable," he replied. "If I refuse, he comes here, and I won't let him turn my home into a battlefield." My voice shook. "What if he plans to kill you tomorrow?" Tommaso stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Then he won't succeed." "And if he plans to take me?" His eyes flashed. "He won't breathe long enough to try." The certainty in his voice should have comforted me. Instead, it terrified me, because certainty like that only came from men willing to die for it. I pressed a hand to my stomach as the baby shifted, a reminder that something fragile and innocent was caught in the middle of monsters. "I don't want our child to grow up in a war," I said. Tommaso's expression softened, just barely. "Neither do I." "And yet," I whispered, "this is where we are." He nodded once. "This is where we are." We stood there for a moment, the weight of tomorrow pressing down on us. Then, his phone vibrated. He glanced at it, frowned, then answered without preamble. "Speak." I watched his face change as he listened, control tightening into something lethal. "What?" I asked. He ended the call slowly. "The autopsy came back," he said. My heart stuttered. "On the intruder?" "Yes." "And?" "He wasn't killed by one of ours," Tommaso said. "Different caliber, different angle." My breath caught. "So someone else silenced him?" "Yes." "Inside your building?" "Yes." "And they're still alive?" I whispered. "Yes." The room felt smaller, colder. A sudden, horrifying thought surfaced. What if tomorrow isn't about peace or negotiation at all? Tommaso met my eyes. "It isn't." "What if it's about forcing you into a choice?" I said. "Me. Or revenge." His gaze dropped to my stomach again, lingering, torn. "I won't choose," he said. I laughed softly, broken. "You don't get that luxury." A knock sounded at the door. Sharp, urgent. Tommaso moved instantly, opening it a fraction. Luca stood there, face pale. Boss, we intercepted a message. Tommaso didn't ask how. From who? Romano channels, Luca said. It wasn't meant for us. My heart pounded. What does it say? Luca swallowed. It says, bring the woman alive. The room spun. Alive. Meaning they expected death. Just not mine. Tommaso's hand closed around mine, fierce and unyielding. That changes nothing. It changes everything, I whispered. They're planning to kill you. He turned to me, eyes blazing. They'll fail. But what if they don't? I demanded. What if tomorrow ends with your blood on the ground and me standing there with your child? Stop, he snapped. I shook my head, tears finally breaking free. I won't be your second dead family. The words hit him like a blow. For the first time since I'd met him, Tommaso Pialo looked afraid. Not of enemies. Of losing me. He reached up, cupping my face with both hands. His touch firm, grounding, desperate. Listen to me, he said, voice low and intense. Tomorrow, no matter what happens, you do exactly what I say. And if you're hurt? You don't stop, he said. You don't hesitate, you protect the baby. And you? His forehead rested against mine, breath mingling with mine in the space between heartbeats. I'll fight, he said. I always do. The baby moved hard beneath my hand, a sudden, sharp reminder of life refusing to wait for war to end. I pressed my palm to my stomach, then placed Tommaso's hand over it. Feel that, I whispered. That's what we're fighting for. His breath hitched. I won't fail you, he said. I believed he meant it. I was terrified it wouldn't be enough. Outside, the city hummed on. Ignorant, indifferent. Tomorrow night, blood would be spilled. And one way or another, nothing would ever be the same again. If you've made it this far, thank you for spending your time with me. I post new dark Mafia romance audiobooks 3 times a week, so make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Now tell me in the comments, do you trust Tommaso? Do you think Chiara made a mistake? Or is this the beginning of something neither of them can escape? Your comments help me write even better stories, and they help YouTube recommend my videos to more listeners. So don't be shy. And a little secret between us? Book 2 is already in the works, and it goes darker, deeper, and far more emotional than anything you've heard so far. Chiara will walk into a trap designed to shatter the most feared man in New York, and Tommaso Pialo will have to choose revenge, or the family he never planned to love. Stay close. You won't want to miss what happens next.